Hey, welcome back. We've made it through 4 complete sessions of faith and finance. You're doing great. Keep doing great. Look at what we've talked about so far. Just in this short time, we've talked about connecting your money and relationships, which means your family, your friends, and more importantly, God. 2, we've looked at our own values and attitudes toward money. That's very, very important. We've looked at overcoming financial obstacles. Those happen all the time. We've got to be prepared to be able to do those. And finally, last week, we talked about setting savings goals. And that's where we want to go this week. So I want you to take your workbook. You should have one of the workbooks and turn to page 52 in the workbook. Page 52, this is Unit 5, Creating a Spending Plan. And at the very top there, it starts out with a review really of last week. And we look at that SMART plan we talked about, which goes like this. Your savings goal should be, the S stands for specific, to measure what you're aiming for and remember what you are sacrificing, real important. The M stands for made to honor God. Connect them to your top priorities and more importantly, to His work in the world. A stands for accountability. Ask someone to check on you and send you reminders. That could be a friend, a family member, someone you really trust. It could be us here at the center. We're here. I've been telling you the whole time. We're here to do that for you and help you with that. Realistic goals. Your R stands for realistic, to increase the likelihood of achieving them. It's just worthless to set goals that you have no plan to achieve. And finally, the T stands for time bound, to track your progress and ensure the goal is accomplished. So you look to the next line, it says wise money management. I love this story. Listen to the story of the wise woman. It's a paraphrase of what you see in Proverbs 31. Note a couple of things. Number 1, she's a good manager of her finances. Number 2, she's a good manager of her relationships. Look at this beautiful story. The wise woman gets up early to meet the day. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. She considers lots of properties and she finally buys one, using it to start a simple, profitable small business. She is creative with her hands and she makes things that her family needs. When times get tough, she is not afraid for her kids. Well, you get that. She's not afraid for her kids. Because why? Because she's planned ahead. Because she knows her worth as God's daughter, she takes care of herself. The dignity she knows spills over. Get this, it spills over to others. And she is encouraging and generous to the needy in her community. Again, that's a paraphrase. You ought to go back and read the entirety of Proverbs 31. But man, that is just a great paraphrase. So just for a moment, I want you to do this. I want you to pause the video and answer this question, which is, what wise things does the woman do to care for her money and her relationship? Pause the video, answer that question. Okay, so we're back. So look over to page 53, okay? And we're at the top of page 53. We're going to continue to talk about Eva and Isaac. I love Eva and Isaac. They have some good times and some tough times, but man, they're really working hard. And I bet, I've said this before, I bet you see yourself in them in a lot of these things. Let's look at their story this week. So note here that Eva and Isaac reflect God's design for their money. They've learned that so far through these units. And they also think about ways they could improve. So here we go. Let's talk about Eva and Isaac's spending plan. After setting savings goals and beginning to act on them, Isaac is slowly seeing Jesus repair all the things in their life, including their decisions about money and their relationships with one another, with each other and their friends and everyone. As a husband, son, and father, he wants their family to reflect God's design. However, everyday life still is hard. His pockets are still empty. Isaac often feels discouraged, but he feels like they just never have enough money. You ever feel like that? Man, I do. Go to the bottom of the page there. The elders of the church who sold them the washer and dryer. Remember in last week, we sold them the washer and dryer they needed so desperately? But he has some great advice for them. They recently, he and Isaac went out and they began shooting hoops together. As the elder took a shot, the elder mentioned to Isaac, just when you think you don't have enough money, that's exactly when you need to track where every cent of it goes and write out a plan how you will use the little that you have. Some good wisdom there. Well, Isaac, turn the page here on page 54. Isaac fakes him out and nails the layup. Well, that's always a powerful. Guys love doing stuff like that. You know, the elder was easily beat at basketball, but his advice about money and wisdom could not be beat. When Isaac got home, he shared the spending plan idea with Eva. They sat down together to create a realistic savings plan or spending plan. In a special notebook, they added up all their income for the month. Afterwards, they added up all their expenses for the month. Then they subtracted their expenses from the income to figure out how much they had left over in their spending plan. Isaac and Eve agreed to set aside 10 minutes every evening to review and keep track of their spending plan. Remember, Eva and Isaac's mother Dolores still lives with them, and they kind of struggle with this. They live under the same roof, but since she's part of the household, they include her in the spending plan. Great message there. Anyone in your household you have to include in the plan. Eva continues to encourage the family to work together on their plan, including their son Michael, even though their advice about money, broken promises, and accusations of others not doing enough. Watch this. The couple feels guilty because Michael is begging for a smartphone. Isaac and Eve are trying to build their savings, but Michael is almost 15 years old and wants to be able to communicate with his friends and potential employers in the area. They struggle with it for several days, and they finally decide to give Lisa down at Rent-A-Go. They decide to go visit her. She's super nice as always, even throwing in a free gift card. Those are always cool. Isaac and Eve rent to own a nice used smartphone down for $50 down and $50 a month for 18 months. Because the family is working together, which much more, Isaac stays home in the evening and helps Michael do his homework and play games with him. Sticking to the savings plan is difficult. The whole family must learn to make sacrifices. But as they take ownership of what God has given to them, little by little, just little by little, slowly, the family has less anxiety. Wouldn't you love to have some less stress and anxiety in your life? It's still a daily struggle, but they are feeling hopeful. All right, there, again, we're on page 54. There's a couple of questions there about the story we just read. How are Eva and Isaac good managers of what God has given them, and how do you think they could improve? Take a moment, pause the video, answer these two questions, and then come right back. All right, jump over to page 55. We're working through this session. It's titled Develop a Monthly Spending Plan. So how do you do that, okay? It's easier than you think to develop it. It's pretty easy. It's difficult to maintain, but easy to develop. Look at this. A monthly spending plan is a basic budget for how we use our money each month. Although it may seem like it's limited, here's the deal. A spending plan actually gives us freedom. When we put everything into a plan, we know our limits and how we can use our money without guilt. To create a monthly spending plan, add up all your income and then add up all your expenses. Afterwards, subtract your expenses from your income to see how much money you left over to save. So watch this. Look at here. It says, examine Eva and Isaac's spending plan and consider. Besides their earning from work, what other resources or other sources of income do Eva and Isaac track? What are they tracking? Second one there, what are their total expenses? What do they have left to save? And what changes could they make to bring their spending plan in line with what they have? So again, I want you to pause the video just for a second, and I want you to answer these 4 questions. You might have to refer back to the story and write down your answers on there, and then come right back. Okay, so bottom page 55. So again, using Eva and Isaac's spending plan as an example. It's just an example, but man, it's a good one. Write down your own income and expenses. As you develop your savings plan, make sure you keep in mind your savings goal. Remember, you said you want to save so much, so you've got to make sure you're adding that in there. Refer to your income expenses tracking sheet that you did before to make sure your monthly estimates are correct, okay? So I encourage you to use a pencil to make easy changes and focus on creating an honest spending plan with your current income and expenses. Your spending plan is confidential. This is for you. Again, we're here to help you. We will sit down and work through this with you. If you'd like to come sit down, we'll walk through, make sure you're not missing anything, remind you of things, but do this. So if you'll turn the page, again, to page 55, actually on page 56 and 57, you'll see an example of Eva and Isaac's monthly spending plan, and you'll see how they did that, how they wrote that out. There's some things on there that there's no numbers because that's not something that they do. Apparently, it says their pet supplies and food supply. Apparently, they don't have any pets. Okay, so there's no payment there. So write down all those things. That's the kind of example. Now, if you go flip over to page 58 and 59, you'll see a blank page, and that's where you fill out your information. If you want a good idea, you can fill it out in your book. It's a good idea to make some copies of it. If you'd like to swing by here, we'll give you some copies, or we can even email you some copies or something like that, so you can do that. So here we go. This is the close of Unit 5. You want to write down on page 58, your daily income. Okay, write everything down of all the money that comes in, all the sources of how that money comes in, write all that down. And then on the page 59, you're gonna write down all your expenses. What are those expenses? Every single one of them, your rent, your utilities, the groceries, sometimes you have to estimate some numbers, that's okay. If you have any loans that are out there that you need to take care of, things like that, write all those things down. That's your goal, that's your job for this week. As you go through this session, fill that out, and then you'll see there on page 60, there's just kind of a commitment spending plan. I will spend at least blank minutes at home this week working on this. Write it down. Say, I'm going to spend 60 minutes or 75, whatever it may be, and write down and get that done. Again, this closes Unit 5. You're doing such a great job so far. And remember, I keep repeating this. As you're going through this, I know we're online, but if you need some help, you give us a call and we will work through, especially with this one. We will sit down with you. I will sit down with you. One of our staffers will sit down with you, and we will walk through each and make sure you've got that down so you can see your spending plan and how it works, because that's going to launch us into the next step. All right, thank you very much. We will see you next time.